Hey guys, it's Andy here, and we're back looking at Standard. This is a green-white Talismere Wolf deck that I put together for you guys. So it's Wolf Tribal, hell of a lot of fun. There's not a lot of support for Wolves, but we've got just enough to make a deck out of it, and it's surprisingly strong for what it is. So I'm just going to touch on the main board here, talk about the sideboard, interactions between, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. So we're going to start off the lineup with the 4 copies of Talismere, namesake of the deck, and the whole reason the deck works. Talismere, Friend to Wolves, is for 5, 2 green and a white. It's a 3/3 legendary creature elf scout. When Talismere enters the battlefield, you create a Voja, Friend to Elves, a legendary 3/3 green and white wolf creature token. And then whenever a wolf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life, and that creature fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. That fight mechanic in this deck is our pseudo removal, and we're trying to run as much stuff that enables us to kind of flash our wolves in, so that we even have instant speed removal just by flashing in creatures, which is one of the big reasons why this deck will get over stuff like aggro or a lot of the more mid-rangey decks, just being able to constantly remove their creatures. Yes, it's fairly reliant on Talismere being out, but the deck still has some legs without him. Touching back on Flash Wolves, we have 4 copies of Nightpack Ambusher, which is for 4, 2 and 2 green. It's a 4/4 wolf with flash, and other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1, and at the beginning of your end step, if you didn't cast a spell this turn, you create a 2/2 wolf creature token. Being able to generate wolf tokens as well as an Anthem effect at flash speed, really cool. Yes, it's a 4 cost, but a 4/4 for 4 with flash, really good stats. 4 copies of Arlen's Wolf, which is for 3, 2 and a green. It's a 3/2 wolf, but it also can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, which is a surprisingly large amount of useful stuff in the format at the moment. 4 copies of Ferocious Pup, which is for 3, 2 and a green. It's a 0/1 wolf, and when it enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 wolf creature token. 2 bodies for the price of 1. Yes, the 0/1 isn't fantastic, but with the Anthem effects and all the +1 synergies that we do have in this deck, we can get a lot of value out of this guy. We're also running 2 copies of Arlen, Voice of the Pack, which is quite expensive at a 6 cost, so for 4 and 2 green, it's a 7 loyalty planeswalker, but she also gives each wolf or werewolf we control that enters the battlefield an additional +1 counter, and her loyalty ability is -2 to create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. So if we do nothing except minus her, we can potentially get 9 power out of her. Over the course of a few turns, we can really get some value out of her, but we are running enough ramp in this deck that we can get her out fairly early. Just really getting value out of the stuff like the Ferocious Pup or the Arlen's Wolf. So running a ramp package in the form of Incubation Druid and Lenarels in a 4 of, which is for 1 green. It's a 1/1 elf druid with tap add 1 green, and Incubation Druid is for 2, 1 and a green. It's a 0/2 elf druid with tap add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce, and if it has a +1 counter on it, you add an additional 3 of that type instead. It's also got Adapt 3 for 5 mana, so 3 and 2 green. You put 3 +1 counters on it, and then you're going to be able to tap it to add the 3 mana. But we also have a few different ways to just put the +1 counters on it anyway. So being able to get the really big value ramp out of the Incubation Druid is not hard in this deck. 3 copies of Ajani the Great-Hearted, which is for 4, 2, a green and a white. It's a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Creatures you control have Vigilance. +1 ability is you gain 3 life, and his -2 ability is put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each other planeswalker you control. 3 copies of Vivian, Champion of the Wilds, which is for 3, 2 and a green. You may cast creature spells as though they had flash, enabling us to do our instant speed removals or pseudo instant speed removal with the Talismere. And then her +1 ability is until your next turn, up to 1 target creature gains Vigilance and Reach. And her -2 ability is look at the top 3 cards of your library, you exile one of them face down, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And then for as long as that card remains exiled, you may look at that card and you may cast that card if it's a creature card. Just allowing us to kind of dig into our deck, trying to find the pieces that we need. More often than not, trying to dig for stuff like Talismere. 2 copies of Shalai, Voice of Plenty, which is for 4, 3 and a white. It's a 3/4 legendary creature angel. Has flying, and you, planeswalkers you control, and other creatures you control have hexproof. Awesome bit of protection for our creatures. Awesome bit of protection for us. We're also running another copy of her in the sideboard. And she also got pay 6, 4 and 2 green to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, which again, with all the ramp in the deck, is not hard to get to, and we're going to be able to get a lot of value out of her. Then to finish up the spells in the main deck, we have 2 copies of Vivian Arcbow Ranger, which is for 4, 1 and 3 green. She's a 4 loyalty planeswalker with her +1 ability being distribute 2 +1 counters among up to 2 creatures you control, and they gain trample until end of turn. Her -3 ability is target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. So that's not a fight ability, that's just us dealing damage, which is really important. And a -5 ability is you may choose a creature card you own from outside the game, reveal it, and put it into your hand, which is relevant when we touch on the sideboard in just a second. Touching on the land base here, a couple of copies of Blast Zone, being able to blow up potential threats during the game can always be good. So Blast Zone comes in with a charge counter on it, it's got tap, add 1 colors, or pay 2x. and tap it to put X charge counters on it, or pay 3 and tap and sack it to destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. 3 copies of Khan's Bastion, which has tap for colorless, or pay 4, tap, and proliferate. With all the Planeswalkers and the +1 synergies that are in the deck, the Khan's Bastions can be quite important. The 4 copies of Sun Petal Grove comes in tapped unless you control a forest or plains. 4 copies of Temple Garden, a forest plains, comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life. 5 copies of plains and 6 forests. Touching on the sideboard here, this is currently sitting at 17 cards because I have a couple of honorable mentions, but we're running 2 copies of the Vivian Reed from M19, which is for 5, 3 and 2 green. It's a 5 loyalty planeswalker with a +1 ability being look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them, put that card into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Neg 3 ability, which is the reason we have her in the sideboard at all, is the ability to destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. And her Neg 8 ability is you get an emblem with creatures you control, get +2/+2. Have Vigilance, Trample, and Indestructible. If we ever get to it, yes, the end ability will be fantastic, but more often than not, she's just in here to be able to go play her Neg 3, kill one of the big flyers that's a threat at the moment, or kill an artifact or an enchantment. Really, really good card. Absolutely love her. Adding to the artifact and enchantment removal, as well as something that we can tutor up with the other Vivian that's in the main deck, is 3 copies of Knight of Autumn, which is for 3, 1 a green and a white. She's a 2/1 Dryad Knight. When it enters the battlefield, you choose one. You can either put 2 +1 counters on her, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment, or you can gain 4 life. In the aggro matchups, like mono red, fairly specifically, the gain life can be really important, but the artifact or enchantment removal, and especially being able to tutor it from our sideboard into the main deck with cards that are in the main deck, really, really cool. 4 copies of Leyline of Sanctity. We're in the colors. It's in standard. We're definitely going to be playing this card in the control matchups. This just hoses Thought Erasure, any targeted discard, anything that's going to try and make us mill cards. Leyline of Sanctity, really, really cool. For 4, 2 and 2 white, it's an enchantment that if it's in your opening hand, you can start the game with it on the battlefield. It's a free enchantment if you have it in your opening hand. And after that point, it simply reads, you have hexproof. So if they don't have removal for this, against mono red, they can't target us with any of the burn. Against control, they can't target us with discard. Really, really cool. Absolutely love Leyline of Sanctity. 3 copies of Veil of Summer, which is for 1 green. It's at instant speed. You draw a card if an opponent has cast a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered this turn, and you and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and black until end of turn. Yes, it's fairly reliant on what matchup you're in, but this thing can be an absolute blowout for your opponent, which is really, really cool. The other copy of Shalai, Voice of Plenty in here, as well as 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage, which will finish the sideboard. So for 1, it's an artifact with creature cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield, and players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. So we're tutoring for stuff. We're not playing it straight out of there, so it's not going to affect us, which is really cool. But this absolutely hoses a lot of the graveyard decks that will be in standard. A lot of the new reanimated stuff, I've already touched on one of them. There's going to be other versions of that deck that's definitely going to be running rampant in standard at the moment. And the graveyard matter decks that are already out in standard, Grafdigger's Cage just absolutely hoses them. It's great. Now I just want to touch real quickly on the honorable mentions of the deck. So we have Icon of Ancestry, which is for 3. It's an artifact with, when it enters the battlefield, you choose creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. And then it's got pay 3 to tap and look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them as long as it's the chosen type and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order. Or Radiant Destiny, which is for 3, 2 and a white. It's an enchantment with Ascend, so if you have 10 or more permanents, you have the City's Blessing. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1, and as long as you have the City's Blessing, they also have Vigilance. So the reason I have these here as honorable mentions is because it wouldn't be outrageous to have these in the deck. If you have the Radiant Destinies handy, they can slot straight into this deck. It's definitely not a bad option. I am running the Ajanis over these because the ability to give Vigilance is already on there. We don't need the Ascend. This gains its life, and it's got the blanket +1s. I just feel like the Ajani is a better option, but if you've got the Radiant Destinies, definitely go for that. But the Icon of Ancestry, another pick that I really like it because we can play it in any colors. We can pick the tribe that we want when it comes in, and we can potentially loot for the wolves that we want. So Icon of Ancestry was very close, but I ended up going for the flash ability through Vivian in the main deck here. So if you've got them, they're good cards to have in the deck, don't get me wrong. It's just not something that I ended up sticking with in the main deck here. But that is the sideboard, and that is the main board. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you like the deck, didn't like the deck, if you think I'm missing cards, let me know in the comments, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Thanks for watching, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to see new videos as they were released. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, you can throw me $1 on my Patreon at patreon.com/SandersQuest. And I will see you guys in the next video. Keep questing, guys.